Welcome back to Healing Life with Positivity 24/7, 365 and 24/7. This is a platform dedicated to all things positive. This is where we obsessively, deliberately, on purpose, with good intentions, just focus on all things positive. Why? Because it's a good addiction. There's a lot of things that you could be addicted to. So why not be addicted to positivity? One should ask themselves, I think I'm just going to get addicted to positivity. That'll be fun, right? So listen, if you're new to the platform, welcome, come on in, sending you love and light. If you are returning back to this channel, let me just start out by saying that I am so glad that you came back to hang out with me. Peace be with you. I hope that all is well. For those of you that follow me on the other platform, thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your time, your good energy. Thank you for all the beautiful prayers that you send me. I am eternally grateful. Nevertheless, let's get into this spiritual download and or spiritual session, right? Okay, so we're going to see what the angels have to say. We like to start these sessions out by way of just taking 3 deep cleansing breaths, okay? I have found that this has been very conducive to healing and reminding us to go with the flow. I feel better already. You can't mess this up. You can join in or join out, whatever you decide to do. I support you in that energy. Starting out in through the nose, out through the mouth. Keep it easy, peasy, nice and slow. I have to admit that this is probably my favorite part of the spiritual sessions that I have with y'all on this platform, is being able to breathe with all of you. Breathing is, in my opinion, a lifesaver. It absolutely is an answer to an immediate feeling of doubt, anxiety. When in doubt, breathe. There's always a solution in the middle of what appears to be something that could just be devastating, right? And life happens. I understand that. Life is life, right? So things happen that affect us. Today, I want to talk about PTSD, okay? And what that means to me. And I'll share a little bit about my story. On this platform, I'm a little bit more, well, I'm not in spiritual court. Let's just say that. Okay, so this is a little bit more personal for me in terms of just how I like to connect with all of you on a personal level. Thank you for your comments. I'm thinking to go live on this platform too, so I can just get a little bit more connected and have immediate feedback where we talk back and forth. I ordered my desk. Oh, excuse me. I thought I was about to sneeze. I ordered my desk, y'all, and my desk has not come. So this setup has been quite temporary, but I'm grateful for it nevertheless. But yeah, I want to talk about PTSD, okay? So interesting story that I had a flashback on today, as a matter of fact, was about a shootout that I was in a workplace environment. To this day, I don't like to sit with my back to the door. In this particular setting, as I'm sitting here with you, I'm sitting with my back to the door. I'm so proud of myself. So real quick little story, okay? I used to work for the Los Angeles Times in Carson, California. I was the top salesperson. Like, out of 300 people, I usually either ranked number 1, number 3, but I never fell below number 5 out of 300 people, okay? So I was born to talk, gift to gab. I'm so grateful. Nevertheless, the reason I'm bringing this up is because that was a very traumatic day for me. It's bittersweet. I was being celebrated for being one of the top salespeople, right, at the LA Times, and me and other people as well. And on this particular day, one of my co-workers brought in a gun, several guns, as a matter of fact. Okay, so it kind of went from being a very celebratory day, our payday. It was on a Friday. I'll never forget it. And I remember them, you know, shouting out all the top salespeople and things like that. And this particular coworker previously had issues with them miscalculating his check. Okay. They used to call us the big dogs. You know, when they saw us coming, they'd be like, oh my God, there's such and such. You know, when people would see me, they're like, oh my God, there she is. That's the top salesperson. Like, it was a huge deal. Whereas this guy didn't sell that many papers. Okay. This is when people used to buy the newspaper over the phone. Now they read it online. Needless to say, this guy was kind of always in the shadows. It's interesting because I was the kind of person that I was always nice to everybody. Always. Until they gave me a reason not to be, I was always nice to everybody. And that's just my nature. I don't really, you know, that's just really who I am. I'm just going to be honest. That's my nature. Okay? Truly and honestly. So this guy, I had a good experience with him. Okay? His name was James. And he was really angry about money being shorted on his check. What appeared to be minor for everybody else was huge for him. Okay? He was a veteran, so he was supplementing his income. He would ride the bus to work. Not only did he have to ride the bus, but he had a disability. I think something happened. He had been in the war or something like that, and something happened. So he was supplementing his income. So every little dollar, for him mattered. Long story short, I would see him walking up and down, you know, from the bus stop to the call center every day when we would come to work. And sometimes we would see people coming to work and we would ask them if they needed a ride or, you know, because it wasn't that far from the call center, the bus stop. But sometimes on a hot day in the summer, it's like, hey, come on, let's go. You know, we were like a really big family. So I was one of the top dogs there. I was very nice to him, always had a beautiful experience with him. And so fast forward to this particular day on a Friday, I remember him addressing a supervisor saying, hey, you guys shorted my check $80. And I remember everybody in the room laughing. You know, I remember one of my coworkers was like, man, I'll give you the $80. Here, James, what you need? You need the $80? But this person felt like they were taunting him, right? And he was an older guy, and I'm sure he had some PTSD himself from the war, or, you know, like he was always really quiet, but I would always talk to him. I was always nice to everybody. I just was. My friend would even say, you know, oh, you're such a goody two-shoes. I'm like, girl, you better be nice to people. You don't know who people are. Sure enough, this particular day, he comes in with a duffel bag, his backpack like he always does, and he has several guns, right? Okay. So I go down to get my lunch and I pass him on the way up. I say, hey, James, how you doing? He's like, oh, I'm doing good. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm going down to get me something to eat. He's like, oh, okay, congratulations. I heard you were number 3. I said, yeah, I lost my number 1 spot. You know, I'm young, y'all. I don't have any children. I'm modeling. I'm at the top of my game, and money is just flowing in my life. Okay. Life is lifing for me, and I'm the top person at this company, right? Needless to say, by the time I come back, I hear people running, getting under the desk. It took 5 minutes. By the time I went down to the truck to get my food from our food truck, we had a food truck that would come and visit us. And I came back, people were running, people were hiding, jumping on the elevator. I hear gunshots and, you know, so yeah, it was, let's just say it didn't end well, okay? He ended up taking his life. He ended up shooting the coworker in the back that kind of taunted him. And then he was looking for the supervisor that refused to pay attention to the fact that his check kept being off. Like something just kept happening. Like for 6 months, they'd be off $30 and he was a stickler for numbers. So every dollar for him counted. Long story short, that incident affected me in ways that I didn't realize. I can't say that I processed it, but I feel like I carried that trauma for years, at least 14 years. Every time I would go into a new job, workplace, I would scope everybody out. I would pay more attention to them. You know, looking back in hindsight, there was a lot of guilt. You know, I said, is there something that I could have said to him? Is there something that I could have done? Another one of my friends is paralyzed to this day, right? He didn't die, but he's paralyzed because he shot the friend in the back. And then we had like a 14-hour standoff because the SWAT team had to come because this guy, James, had a military background. So they saw him as somebody that was a trained sniper. Okay. Yeah, true story. So how does that affect me? How did that affect me? I would go to places and I'd be like, I can't sit with my back to the door. There was no way that anybody could convince me to sit with my back to the door because I'm like, I got to see who's coming in, who's coming out. And I never realized that was a form of anxiety. I never realized it. I didn't realize how resilient I was. Some people never came back. Some people went into like shock. They had to get on medication. Like it was a lot going on because just imagine your coworkers running through this 2-level building. There's 2 levels to the call center and you don't know where he's at. And he's got guns and he's shooting anybody that's ever been mean to him or taunted him. Now, in our minds, we're just thinking, oh, we're cracking jokes, or they were. I was always just coming to myself. Again, I always play in my mind like he had just passed me. Hey, James, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. No signs, no normal day. It's lunchtime. I got my bonus. I'm doing good. It's payday. And his check got messed up again, right? So I played that memory over and over and over for years. What could I have done? What could I have said? Until I just had to realize that, listen, this person has stuff going on that there's no way that I could have known. And I thought about my encounters with him, details, conversations we had, certain people made him feel a certain way. Most of the younger people, remember, they're making a crap load of money. Some of them are kind of arrogant. He's not the top salesperson, but $80 is $80, and he was stewing over this for a moment. So post-traumatic stress, this is why I do what I do. I know that was a little long-winded, but just a little background about me on this platform. I like to tell y'all who I am, like what you've been through, like what makes you, where do you get this gumption? Where do you get this passion to help people through trauma? Because I know what traumatic situations looks like. And that's one of many. And I'm sure we all have those moments. We all have something that we can go back to and we can be bound to, right? But in that moment, I felt helpless. I felt like I should have helped him. It was interesting how I felt bad for everybody, but I really felt bad for him. I'm thinking maybe I should have said something else. Like I played that over and over. Within 5 minutes, it was enough for me to go down and get my burrito from this truck and come back up. And as I'm coming back up, I see people running. And I put my burrito down on my desk to wash my hands. And in a split second, that's when I saw people running. I actually came back up and I got to my seat to put my food down. And my OCD was like, oh, my hands. And I'm thinking, God, I just missed the bullet. I just missed him doing this. I just like that was intense for me. So breathing, this is why I want to talk about breathing. Breathing. Take a deep breath. Even as I just went into that moment, y'all, my body sometimes will recant things as if it's really happening. I'm not exempt from what it is that you feel if you have a traumatic situation that has happened to you. It could be a breakup, a death, whatever, right? Breathing, breathing, breathe. Because as I relive that moment, I can remember how I felt in that moment. But look how long it's taken me to get control over that moment. My mind is saying, yes, that happened. That actually happened. My body is saying, oh, wait, is this happening now? So one absolutely has to be mindful of how their mind travels in their memories, right? I'll get a little bit more into that. But this card says resilience is one of your strongest qualities. It has gotten you through so many trials and tribulations in the past, and it will continue to do so. Lean on that inner tower of strength. Anytime that you need it, you've got this, right? One thing about the mind is so powerful that if you imagine something down to the detail, it will literally relive that moment as if it's actually happening. So you have to really be mindful of how you navigate your mind, your mental vortex, right? You gotta be strong enough to go back into the shadows. You have to be strong enough to relive certain situations and circumstances that have caused you a great deal of pain. It is wise to be mindful that you're mindful. Monitoring your thoughts as you're going back into a moment that you need to clear up some type of, anxiety or moment that is shadow work. In that, breathing will always be vital. It will be a lifeline. Proven, tested, and tried. What else we got, angels? Okay. Which leads me to my next story, right? I'm a storyteller. And so recently, I was talking to somebody that I, just befriended, and we were having a conversation, and I said, a lot of people that are going through their spiritual awakening are saying, well, who am I? What am I? Who am I? And they're trying to go back into their Akashic records. They're going back into their past life. They're, they're traveling, they're navigating, they're doing, but they fail to remember that they need to come forward. And so I had shared something with somebody. I had like an epiphany, and I shared with this person, I said, listen, I know we keep going back into the past, remembering who we are, but now that we remember, what do we need to relive those, traumas out for? Why do we have to keep remembering these moments? Now that we're able to access our Akashic records, why do we need to keep reliving those moments when it's only bringing pain? When do you get to be in this current existence, in this life, and come forward and give this moment some reverence with all due respect to what it is that you're supposed to be doing and or feeling according to where life has taken you, right? And it triggered this person. Whether they realized that or not, I recognized it because I know what triggered looks like. I know what it looks like because I've been through it. So the first thing I did was I exhibited patience, and then I allowed some space. I said, okay, this person's going through something. So let me just allow some space and let me treat this with love, but I'm going to disconnect from it because I feel like this person is offended by the fact that I'm saying, hey, we need to come forward now, right? We can only remember so much trauma, right? Because remembering all that trauma, displaced energy in a way that you keep going back to it and saying, this is the reason I'm mad. I got a reason to be angry. Yeah, I understand that. But when does one give themselves the permission to turn the trauma into triumph, turn the pain into power? You have to give yourself permission to do so, right? And this was my only intention by way of sharing this with this person. And the fact that they missed it, it made me look at myself as a communicator, of which I pride myself on communicating well. And I said, okay. I said, well, maybe I didn't say it the way they needed to hear it. So I allowed some space, right? And then I felt that, I felt maybe they felt like I was overstepping my bounds, right? And so I've learned as a teacher to ask permission. So when people share stuff with me, be it about their spiritual journey, what they're doing, where they're going, whatever the case is, I always say, hey, do you want to know what I think? And the reason I ask permission is because you're sharing with me what it is that you're going through. But I don't want to make any assumption that you actually need my help, right? That's not a good assumption. Sometimes people just need to hear themselves talk. Sometimes they don't want to know what you think. So being mindful of that, respecting people's spiritual and or personal boundaries. And so I had to get out of savior's mode, right? Especially when there were times in my life that I was trying to save everybody else. And I was like, yo, who's going to save me? I got to save myself, right? I learned real fast. Savior's mode is not always a good mode to be in. Even when you think it's the best thing for everybody involved, You have to allow people space to grieve and hurt in a way that they need to grieve and hurt. And most times they just need to say what they need to say. They need to hear themselves say it. Now, here's where the dilemma lies when people don't hear what it is that they're saying. Sometimes people don't listen to their own voice. They'll say something to you and it's like, did you just hear what you just said? Yeah. Sometimes you have to, reflect back to them what they said. That, in my opinion, is effective communication. Hey, so let me ask you this. Okay, so what you're saying is, let me ask you what you're saying because I want to be clear so that I respond appropriately. A lot of things get dismantled unnecessarily because of conversations that were absolutely misunderstood, or words maybe that could have been used in a different way, or a tone, or maybe somebody was triggered and they didn't realize they were triggered. Like, listen, right? Nevertheless, let's see what the angels have to say. So shout out to story time. Sometimes I like to drop a story in between. Spirit is saying to slow down and take your time. There is no need to rush everything. You are already doing your part. Trust that what belongs in your life is already making its way towards you in divine timing. So this reminds me of, sometimes when we put a cap on time, I remember there were times in my life where I had disciplined and or fashioned myself so much so that I wouldn't even look at the clock. I felt like the clock would give me anxiety, y'all. But I was always on time. Does that make sense? It works. Proven, tested, and tried. I felt like when I was in the workforce, I would get up at 5 a.m. I'm like, oh my God, it's 6. I got to be clocked in by 7. When I stopped focusing in on the time, I was always on time. Now I look at the time by way of synchronicities. One might concede that time is working in my favor now, because when I look at the time, I'm looking at it like, oh, it's 4:33 on the clock. Like right now, it's 4:33 on the clock, but there is no anxiety. I'm not clocking in for anybody. I'm clocking in for myself. Even when I started this particular platform and other platforms, I said, there was a rush to get things done because I felt like I had lost time. So Spirit says, slow down, chill out. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. I still have to remind myself of that because I'm a stickler for getting things done, that perfectionism, that, no, this has to be done right now and here. And I'm like, wait, okay, breathe. Are you having fun? Are you enjoying yourself? How are you feeling? How's your heart rate? Are you happy? Are you like, what is this? Are we having a good time, right? One should be doing something where they're having a good time. And so these are things that I think are good tips on calibrating yourself and checking yourself. Check yourself or you will wreck yourself. That is absolutely proven, tested, and tried. It's a beautiful thing when you can sit with people that have already made certain mistakes, okay? The biggest mistake that anybody can make is saying, oh, that will never happen to me, right? Yeah, don't prove it. Don't test it out. Don't try it. I've seen people, get on drugs and say, oh, this won't do anything to me. And unfortunately, it took their life. True story, right? So let us not outsmart ourselves with what it is we think we need to experience in order to be experts or wise or in this, energy of expertise, so to speak, right? So let's just see what this card has to say. The angels are saying, whatever you want, it's going to happen for you. Whatever it is that you've been putting off, do not procrastinate any longer. Tackle that long overdue project. You will feel better once you begin. Start with one thing at a time. Thoughts and ideas not acted upon are just lying in wait, waiting for you to give them life. You can do this. That's a beautiful obsession, to obsess over this energy, obsessively, okay, consistently, deliberately for the next 24 hours, 365. Why not? Let's do it. So the first card says resilience, reminding yourself of what you've already gone through, how much you've gone through. When I sit with my inner child and I imagine her face, I just laugh. She always makes me laugh. And then I think about my elder self, most high willing, I'll make it well into my hundreds, right? I think about those two people and then I think about where I am. And I always say, oh, you're such a young lady, honey. When I think about my 100-year-old self, and at this age, I'm like, you're such a young lady. And when I think about the little girl that is still within me, she reminds me, have fun. Like, you need to chill out. Like, you need to have some fun. Remember when you used to sing in your room? Remember when you used to dance? Child would put on full concerts in my room in front of the mirror, always taking pictures, okay? Listen, that was me, okay? So resilience, slowing down. When we slow down too, this is what I realized. You enjoy the moment. It's something about slowing down that gives reverence and respect to the moment, right? When we breathe, it gives us time to think about what it is that we want to say. And then we absolutely can change the energy around us too, to a very calming energy. What I've learned though is working with people who deal with anxiety and depression. Okay, because I don't know if a lot of y'all know that I worked in behavioral health and also chemical dependency. I worked with people who had addictions. I realized that at the end of the day, I too needed somebody to talk to, right? The biggest misconception about people that counsel people or that hold a space of love and light for people, right, is that they don't need anybody to talk to. Some of my best friends were therapists. They're like, oh, you need to become a clinical level 3 therapist. The company will pay for it. I'm like, no, I don't think I want to be a level 3. Like, I got enough talking to people about childhood trauma, right? Because if you're emotional like myself, I would take those people home with me. I'd be thinking about Miss such and such, Mr. So-and-so. I'm like, oh my God, he said that his father did this. So I had to learn how to detach and or debrief and or trust that I was doing all that I could do, that I was only a piece to their puzzle, that hopefully they're going to meet other people that are going to help them through this trauma. And eventually they too will be able to hold a space of love and light for other people. A lot of counselors are absolutely people that got into mental health because they were figuring out themselves, figuring out their own trauma, right? So when I hit a plateau was right around the pandemic. And I was like, yo, this is a lot. It was a lot, y'all. I said, I got to check my own mental health. Not to mention I was going through a spiritual awakening. And I remember sitting with a really good doctor friend of mine. And she says, you know, everybody's going through the Kundalini experience. I was like, what? I knew nothing about the Kundalini experience. She looked at me and laughed. We became really good friends. I promise you, it never felt like I was in a therapy session with her. She became my friend. She started calling me on my own personal number. Okay. I had my spiritual, you know, gifts. And what I realized was that behavioral health and spiritual gifts was all intertwined. Why were we separating the two? And then all of a sudden, behavioral health was introducing meditation, and you know, they were telling people, you know, to try to wean themselves off of medication, psychotropic medication. Like, it was a really beautiful awakening, but it was chaotic all at the same time. So I had to unplug. I said, wait, hold up. The whole world is going through this? Little did I realize the Most High was preparing me to speak to millions of people all over the world, preparing me to have my own private practice at home, doing cleansings, healing, rituals, I guess you could call it. But if you want to call it a ritual is something that you do over and over, right? So connecting those dots, taking from psychology, taking from behavioral health, realizing that, yo, it's all spiritual. And this is why I go so hard in spiritual court, because I feel like there have been people that have wanted to manipulate the energies around us and within you, right? And so connecting those dots, right? In the middle of the pandemic was probably the biggest awakening. In the middle of the pandemic, I walked away from my job, okay? I'll get more into that later. Nevertheless, reminding yourself of what the angels are saying. Resilience. Slow down. Whatever you're putting off, do not procrastinate, okay? Whatever it is, okay? And whatever you've accomplished for the day, celebrate that. Sometimes it's just getting out of the bed and brushing your teeth and making your bed. Okay, making your bed is a huge accomplishment. There's somebody somewhere that can't do any of that. So celebrate that. Oh, I was able to put my shoes on today. Oh, you know what? I was able to move my legs. Oh, I was able to wiggle my fingers. Oh, I was able to blink my eyes. Oh my goodness, I'm able to take a deep breath. I'm so eternally grateful for that. These are little things that we take for granted, but they're huge when we look at them by way of just gratitude. This is why breathing is so vital by way of PTSD. Anything could be post-traumatic, a breakup, finding out that somebody stabbed you in the back. You know, it's a lot of things. Losing family members, family drama, you know, a lot of things. Shadow work, childhood can bring on PTSD, right? So I had to dedicate myself, and I'm still doing this. Instead of being my walking triggers, I'm going to be my walking triumphs. Instead of bonding in, you know, trauma, I want to bond with everybody in triumph. This is why when people open up to me and they tell me their story, I always like to end it on a positive note, right? It's one thing to be on the receiving end of somebody giving you pertinent information about them, personal, private things. They feel a trust energy with you, that they want to share something with you. There's something in you that makes them want to tell you more about what they've been through. Now, one has to remember, your cup has to be full. You got to have enough light. You got to have enough, you know, wisdom. You have to have enough patience to hear them out. Oftentimes, there's a 99.9% chance that they don't want your opinion. I'm going to be honest. It's a lot of grown children out here that just want to be heard, right? So one must be mindful in these very sensitive encounters as to whether or not you want to offer your opinion to somebody. Oh, I had to learn that. That's Savior's complex. What are we obsessively, compulsively, deliberately thinking about today? Thank you, angels. Anything else? Show us what it is that we need to see. Yeah, listen. So holding a space of love and light for people, right? Not making them feel as though you know more than them. Sometimes is always a good thing, even if you do, right? Or if you have a certain perspective on something, just remember to say what it is to somebody that you would want somebody to say to you, and do it with the same level of compassion. If you look deeply into somebody's eyes, you will always see a reflection of yourself. It is a constant reminder to be kind, right? Be kind to people. Be patient. Be honest. Know when to let things go. Don't allow anybody to sit in the presence of you and keep reliving a circumstance and a situation. I had to end a friendship with somebody that just loved to talk about her past. I said, girl, we've been talking about Chris for the last 4 years. I'm going to have to detach, because the moment we stopped talking about Chris, she and I had nothing in common. Okay, listen, the angels are saying keep moving forward. Even if you are unsure of the next steps or where it will take you, trust that you are walking the path that you are meant to walk. Remember, we are walking it with you. This is what the angels are saying. You're never alone. Remember, calibrating, feeling, hey, how am I feeling today? Check in with yourself. You know, body maintenance, spiritual maintenance. How am I feeling today? This also says trust yourself even more. I'm going to pull from these other cards. Is this the same deck? No, this is something else. Hold on. Yeah, so listen, checking in with yourself is going to be the best thing that you will have ever done for yourself. Check in with yourself, right? How you doing today? How you feeling today? Do you need anything, right? Especially if you're a parent, especially if you're a spouse. Sometimes we overextend ourselves to our husbands, our wives, and you know, it's easy to forget about yourself. It's 444 on the clock. Completion, starting what you finish. And if you don't get a chance to finish it, being okay with that. You know, my stickler for being perfect throughout life has really humbled me in a way that I had to understand things get done in timing, in divine timing, right? But that goes back to my childhood. That goes back to being corrected all the time with very strict parents. I thank the Most High for them because they created structure, but I still have to leave room to have fun. Sometimes people think just because, you know, you're about your business, you're not fun. I remember there was a friend that came back into my life after a really long time, and she's like, you used to be fun. I'm like, girl, I got 2 children now. We knew each other when I was 19 years old, and we were, you know, hopping from club to club. Okay. Yeah, boo. Yeah, going to bed at, you know, 5 a.m., waking up at 7 in the evening saying, let's do it again, right? We had money. We were everywhere. Hollywood, Beverly Hills. Okay, I was modeling. Okay, listen, I'm a mom now. And when I became a mom, I wanted to be a mom. Well, she was in like a time warp. We had connected, I think, like after 14 years, and she brought over a bottle of wine. And I was like, well, I really don't drink anymore, but I'll have a glass of wine with you. Child didn't know she wanted to take down 2, 3, 4 bottles. Well, she didn't have her children that weekend. And I was like, she was like, you used to be fun. I was like, I'm still fun, girl, but I homeschool my children. Like, my children had never seen me have a glass of wine. They're like, Mom, you're drinking. Like, it was really intense. And so it's you know, it goes without saying that friendship dissolved itself, hopefully peacefully. I think I walked away peacefully, but I didn't have anything in common with this person. And her development had been arrested. She wanted to pick up where we left off. I'm like, okay, my girl, no, I can't. I'm a mom, you know. I didn't wait this long to be a mom, you know, to just be dropping my children off. Like, and then too, there was nothing in me that wanted to do those things anymore. I had thoroughly gotten them out of my system. Well, it didn't go well when I had to have a conversation with her. She felt offended. She was just like, you're just not the same. I'm like, yeah, and you are. But I was being honest. And I was like, yeah, you are still the same, girl. You know, you're this age now, right? I had to bring her up to par, and she didn't want to admit that. But then, you know, deeply rooted at that was her own trauma. Feeling as though getting married early on, having children early on kept her bound. I had my children later. So all my friends that had their children early, you know, felt like they were trying to get back to the 20s and 30s. And I was like, no, what's going on? Like, they're all grandmothers. My children are still young. Like, okay, right? So our whole, you know, reasons for being together changed, and that's okay, right? I saw a lot of them go back to like trying to be 20. I'm like, girl. And when we were out hanging out, they'd be like, you're so lucky you don't have kids. I knew when I had a baby, I would be serious. I was not playing. And I've been a single mom. So it's like, what? I would roll over and look at myself like, oh my God, I have a real person that's depending on me. Like, this is for real, right? Nevertheless, more about me, all about you, all about me, all about you. Just sharing my story for those of you that, you know, want to get to know me better. Share your stories. Tell your story. You know, every life is a story that deserves to be told. You can't do anything with it, but, you know, share it. You can keep it, or you can share it with somebody that maybe can get something from it. Just letting people know, hey, I'm human. I've been through some stuff, right? So if you see me happy, just know that I deserve it. If you see me laughing at every little thing in life, just know that I understand pain. Okay, listen. This says, if you are noticing changes within yourself, it's because you're leaving the old version of yourself behind. You are evaluating, elevating, shedding old unnecessary layers. Old cycles are ending and new beginnings are on the horizon. You deserve this new chapter. How fitting, right? When I think about this, I think about unapologetically being the new you, right? The new you won't go with everybody. Everybody's not going to understand. Everybody's not going to understand. I lost a lot of people as I went through my transformation. You know, when I decided to do tarot, when I decided to be in spiritual court, when I decided to go public and just be in the public eye, I remember people telling me, oh my God, you're crazy. You're gonna leave a job. Oh my God, you're making $85,000 a year. Oh my God, you're like, you have full coverage, medical coverage. You're this and that. You work from home. Yeah, but my children were getting bigger, and I wasn't happy doing what I was doing anymore because it was time for me to go. That's another thing. This is why we got to check in with ourselves. Are you having a good time? What are you getting out of this? You got to get something out of it, or it's always going to feel like work. When they say do what you love, do more of what you love. Absolutely, right? I lost a lot of people that thought I was crazy, and now they watch me from their smart TVs, and I think that's amazing, you know? They're still at the same job, which I don't think there's a problem with that. My thing is, are you happy? Are you happy? As long as you're happy doing what you're doing, then, hey, I support the energy. But people told me I was crazy. I lost a whole marriage because the guy told me, oh my God, you just quit your job? But he would tell me, if you're that miserable with your job, just quit your job. He was making over 6 figures. I said, yeah, just carry me for the next 90 days while I transition. I'm going to cash out my 401k. I only got 50,000 there. It's not going to take me long. I'm not going to be able to get unemployment, but I got this dream and something's just been pushing me to go into the public eye. And I feel like there's people there that I'm supposed to meet. And so I'm going to go. Just support me in that. Well, needless to say, the marriage came to an end. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. That marriage taught me etiquette. We'll go more into that later. But nevertheless, transformation. Yeah, listen, this is the card that came up. I love these cards. You like them? Look at these. These are beautiful. Look at that serpent. A lot of people are like, oh my God, it's a snake. No, that represents the Kundalini experience. Listen, transformation. Embrace change and transformation in your life. Like a snake shedding its skin, let go of old patterns and beliefs and habits to come to a new beginning and personal growth. Trust the process of renewal and embrace the new and emerging you. So obsessively, compulsively, deliberately, consciously, hey, you know what? I'm trusting my transformation. I'm embracing the new me. I'm embracing my new body. I'm embracing my new spirit. And in that, it keeps me in optimum health. I am going with the flow and I'm having a really good time doing it. It's one thing to do something, but are you having a good time? Are you enjoying it? What's the benefit emotionally, spiritually? Absolutely, you should be getting something out of life that makes you feel good. Okay. On a very natural and organic way, right? When I say natural and organic, you know, sometimes, you know, people do things to make themselves feel good. Just make sure that you're paying attention to what those things are. Listen, I love this card. Look at it. Look at the artwork. It's so beautiful. This says protection of sacred places. Ooh, respect and protect the sacred spaces in your life. Protect your energy. Protect your mind. Protect your body. Whether these are physical places, relationships, and or inner sanctums. Honor their sanctity. Sanctity? Yeah, sanctity. How sacred it is, the sacred space within you. Honor that. Uphold the values and rituals that keep these spaces sacred and safe. So for me, I like to burn my frankincense and myrrh. I like to keep my space clear. Y'all bear with me. You can probably hear that I'm a little nasally. I'm going through a huge ascension, okay? Super huge, very beautiful spiritual upgrade. And I'm very, very glad about it. And so, yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, your sacred spaces, okay? Getting into what I've been doing is I've been getting into breaking a pattern. I can't feel robotic. I can't get up and do the same thing every morning. I can't get up and eat the same thing every day. I cannot. Some days I skip breakfast. Sometimes I get up and make a full breakfast. Sometimes I go to the gym. Sometimes I go take a walk. Now I'm putting something new into my schedule where I go feed the ducks. One thing that I've learned about myself, okay, and I encourage everybody to continue to take inventory. Check yourself. Monitor yourself. Why did I do that? Why am I thinking this? What is this going to do for me? How am I going to, like, write this down, say it, mental note, whatever you do. So as I'm checking myself, right, I said, ooh, I'm the kind of person I absolutely cannot be bored. I used to change my hair so much, y'all, change my nail color so much. I still do this. Like, these are things that I don't want to stop doing. Now I'm seeking a little bit more like, okay, oh, well, you know, I'm okay, right? Because I realized that some of those changes were based on me trying to change events in my life that happened. And so I would literally make things look different. I would paint my walls. I mean, I was always about the new, okay? Always about the new. In that, there's balance though, too, okay? I've learned how to get rid of things, holding on to things, right? Pictures, things like that. There's power in deleting people's phone number that you no longer feel are in a good space with you. There's power in that. There's power in writing people letters telling them exactly how you feel, irregardless of whether or not they get it or not, and burning that. There's power in that. So when we talk about sacred spaces, one has to create that sacred space. I'm like, you know, sometimes I'm a night owl. It's 4:55 on the clock. Change. Listen, sometimes I'm a night owl. Sometimes I get up before the sun comes up. I listen to myself. And then there's some days where I'm like, okay, I got to get a regimen with this, and this, or this is not going to get done, right? Like with cooking, I have to have music on when I cook. I have to have music on when I'm in the bathtub, okay? I've minimized my social media in terms of like Instagram, Facebook. I did that years ago, okay? I'm still on Facebook because I have family members there and people I went to high school with, and I still like to see what's going on in their lives, you know? I love that part about social media, but I don't overindulge. That became our addiction because that was all that we had during the pandemic. So putting the phone down, taking a walk, and, you know, not having my phone close to me. One, because of the radiation. So y'all watch that, putting the phones up to your ear when you're taking your walk, you know, putting the phone in your pocket. Fellas, putting it on your lap, that affects your prostate, okay? So be careful. A lot of people like to put their phone on their lap when they talk. So be mindful of that. Copper is really good for blocking radiation. It's just good for just spiritual protection overall. And if you're going on your walks and you're like me and you're counting your steps, just be mindful. I just hold my phone in my hand, but I don't keep it close to my body. Ladies, do not put your phone inside of your bra. Yeah, that's not good. Okay, don't do that. Yeah, no, right? So sacred spaces. Why am I saying all these things? Because your body is a sacred space. We have to be mindful of what we're doing to our bodies consistently, deliberately, without thinking. Sometimes we do this, it's just routinely that we do it, right? Breaking a routine is okay. Okay? Canceling plans is okay. Doing more of what makes you happy is okay. Being okay with what you've gotten done for the day is okay. Right? And that's just me learning me. So maybe you're able to take something from that. Maybe you're completely different. That's okay. That's what makes the world very beautiful. But what are your somethings, right? I encourage you to go within. What are your somethings? Write them down. Hey, why did I do that? Being a watcher of your own mannerisms, being a watcher of your own thoughts, and listening to your own voice are 3 really good places to start. Take what resonates, if that resonates with you, and leave the rest. I remember somebody telling me, you talk with your hands. I'm like, I do, and I do. It just is something I don't know. It really, body language for me is like a whole nother language. My body is saying a whole bunch of stuff. But when I'm walking in my truth, I use my hands a lot, like a lot. But somebody pointed that out to me. I said, okay. So I started watching myself. I started, like, right now, I'm watching myself, okay? Sometimes you got to get outside of yourself, watch yourself, and really just make sure that you're okay, right? It's not that you're giving yourself a big fat F on being who you are, but just watching yourself, paying attention to what you're thinking about when you think about it, how you're feeling when you think about certain circumstances that have happened to you. Being your own savior is always going to be a good thing. Looking in the mirror, telling yourself, I love you, I love you, I love you. You are my #1 person. I accept you for who you are. I love you, I love you. It's always going to be good conversations to have in the mirror. And it's interesting, y'all, because right now I have a mirror up, and I never had a mirror in front of me, but now I have one, so I can pay close attention to myself as I'm helping others. It's a kind reminder to myself to not forget myself while I'm helping everybody else. Because sometimes people can help too much, child. You can empty your whole cup out, and then you turn around and you need help. You're like, nobody's helping me. That's because you look like you got it all together. Nobody helps people that think they got it all together. People come into your life and you're like, I got it. Okay? Fear of attachment, fear of losing, fear of abandonment, right? But you're asking for help, okay? Even if you say, no, I don't need your help, at least somebody offered help. And that's always a kind gesture. So be kind, be patient. I love y'all. Thank you for allowing me to go on that little tangent towards the end of this conversation. This is the part of the spiritual session where we wrap our arms around ourselves and we say, I am grateful. I am deserving. I deserve to be here. I am very, very, what am I going to tell myself today? I have every reason to be happy, and I am a part of a larger divine plan that is connected to everything in nature. I have every right to be happy. I have every right to be unapologetic about who I am, walking in my truth. Wrap your arms around yourself and squeeze yourself. Whatever your affirmation is, say some nice things to yourself. You deserve to talk nice to yourself. I love y'all. I do. I'll see y'all in the next video. Until then, as always, peace be with you.